again, mamas. Jenny here from Heart of a Mother. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about including the Catholic faith in your homeschool. Many of us homeschool because we want our children to have a Catholic education, or at least to be immersed in our Catholic faith as a part of our daily life, so that they become used to that and can stand up against the secular world, right? But for those of us who did not grow up in a home like that, it can be a little challenging. It's not second nature to talk about God all day long for me. And I don't. But there are 5 ways that I have found to include the faith in our family, in our homeschooling, that I think are helpful and I hope will be helpful to you. The first is the most important, and it is to be an example to our kids. It's tough to find time to pray by ourselves, so pray in front of our kids. Our children need to see us living out the faith. They need to see us going to confession, going to Mass, going to adoration if we can. They need to hear about how we communicate with God as they grow older in developmentally appropriate ways. They need to see us open our Bibles. They need to know that prayer is an important part of our day, even if it's just through the aspirations we pray while cooking or cleaning or changing diapers. It is a lovely thing to have a faith that your children can witness and appreciate, because they love you so much, and they look to you, even those teenagers, for all the guidance on how to be a competent adult. And so that is the first thing, is that mama's faith has to be an example. Does your home have religious art? Do you have religious books on your nightstand and bookshelves that are for you, not just for your kids? And hopefully you are accessing those books and reading those books in the seasons that are appropriate to have time to do that. But I really encourage moms to find ways to focus on their own faith before they try to instruct their kids, because you can't give what you don't have. The second thing is to pray together. It can be simple. It can be blessings before meals. It can be a guardian angel prayer before bedtime. It can be a quick car prayer every time you get in the car. Or it can be a daily rosary or a daily chaplet or a daily devotional time together, or a once a week rosary or a once a week devotional time together, going to daily Mass once a week, going to Mass on Sundays as a family. All of those ways to pray as a family will influence your kids. Now, we'll talk another time about how to make that tolerable for family life and how to do that in an age-appropriate way where your children don't hate it. But finding some way to include prayer together is very important to passing on the faith to our children, because prayer has to be the foundation. Prayer is the conversation between us and God, and there is no faith without it. The third thing is the more fun stuff. This is filling our days, some of them, with the liturgical year and celebrating that gift that the church gives us. So the seasons of the liturgical year are a perfect opportunity to bring the faith home in our domestic churches, whether it is Advent or Christmas or Lent or Easter or ordinary time where we are now. You can bring in the faith in meaningful ways. Lots of ways to do that are incredibly complicated, and lots of ways to do that are really simple too. Do you have a calendar from your church that has the saints' feast days? Do you check it every day? Do you teach your children to look and see who the saint of the day is? There are great podcasts about saints of the day too. Most of you know Kendra Tierney is a fantastic resource for liturgical living. She has a plentiful catalog and website and book of ideas, and you can pick and choose which things. Start out by celebrating the feast days of your children's names, their name days. Start out by celebrating baptism days and make it a little special. In most seasons, we keep things really simple. When it is someone's name day or baptism day, they get to pick a special treat that the family shares. That's it. We just recognize that day, but they call that saint to mind and they remember what they've learned about that saint through stories or through discussions, and we talk a little bit more about it sometimes. But there's other saints that maybe aren't named in our family that can be important to our family, that can be fun to celebrate too. Maybe you have heritage from Italy, so you're going to pick an Italian saint, or maybe you have Irish heritage, don't we all? And you can celebrate St. Patrick's Day in a more religious way than just the secular way. There's so many opportunities throughout the year to recognize both the seasons of the liturgical year and the feast days of the liturgical year. There are even morning time plans on Pam Barnhill's website that focus on the Marian feast days and the solemnities. And so there are so many options for living the liturgical year, and it can be completely overwhelming. And so I really encourage starting very small and very simple. And we have ebbed and flowed over the years. We had years like right now where we're doing things very simply. And we have had years where we have a big celebration at least once a week about a saint and have food and crafts. Not so many crafts because I'm not a crafty mom, but food and some crafts, definitely coloring pages and stories. That's what brings those saints, those holy men and women, alive to my children. Okay, so celebrate the liturgical year, get on board with what the church has given us in that way. The fourth is more obvious, is catechesis. If you're homeschooling your children, whether you choose to send them to your parish for religious education or CCD or whatever you guys call it, or not, you still really should be doing some catechesis at home. Whether that means you're reading aloud a faith-related book, or you're choosing a formal curriculum like Faith and Life, or some combination of the above. Instructing our children in the faith is our responsibility. We are the primary educators, and the primary thing we must pass on is the faith. So we do have a responsibility to do that. And regardless of what other curriculum you're using, regardless of whatever homeschool style you have, figuring out what works for catechesis, for religious education, is really important to passing on the faith to our children. Because if they don't know it, they're not going to keep it. And, in the early years, that can just be Bible stories. And then moving into some of the catechism, whether that's Baltimore Catechism or more contemporary writings. Then it moves into more apologetics as they get to be teenagers. That's kind of the natural progression of catechesis. And it's something that we should consider when we're homeschooling as well. So that's number 4, is the catechesis, the religious education. And number 5 is an easier, simpler thing in a lot of ways, but is just to choose Catholic curriculum. You hopefully have seen on my website the mega Catholic homeschooling curricula list. It is an attempt to put all of the opportunities of Catholic curriculum that is made for homeschoolers or works really well for homeschoolers in one place, so that you can look at all the options and just choose some that might work for you. I have a post on why to choose Catholic curriculum over other curriculum, and you'll see that I don't think everything has to be Catholic. You don't have to use Catholic spelling words and Catholic math. But there is benefit in looking at that first and seeing if one of those options would work for your family, if one of those options is a good fit, so that you can then have that infused into that subject area. For me, it's super important that I choose Catholic history, because my catechesis wasn't good enough, I don't believe, for me to be able to pick out when there's bias in history. And so I really always choose a Catholic history program. I'm a little bit better about picking out the problems in the science texts, so we kind of go back and forth between Catholic and Protestant there. But choosing Catholic elements for your curriculum just brings more opportunities to talk about God on a daily basis. If the vocabulary of our faith, talking about the saints and Mary and Jesus and virtues and being good to one another and the commandments, if that's part of your children's daily vocabulary, then it becomes more normalized and it becomes something that they internalize. And so those are the 5 things that I've done throughout the years that I feel have a good impact on my children. I have 2 teenagers who love their faith, who I think are mostly well-formed and definitely well catechized. They have a love for Jesus, and those are the things that I have brought into our homeschooling, into our family, that I think make the most difference. So that's number 1. Mom, be an example. And if you're thinking dad too, yes, but we don't have control over that. All we can do is pray for our husbands and their faith. So mom, be an example, regardless if your husband is practicing or believing or not. 2, pray together as a family, ideally. But again, if husband's not on board, then pray together at the start of your homeschool day, at lunch, whenever you can, just one-on-one with the children at bedtime. Say a little prayer, go to Mass together, and keep that a part of your daily lives. 3, live the liturgical year. So many resources online for that, both for the seasons and the saints. 4, catechesis, that religious education in the home. There's some amazing family catechesis options now that are coming out that involve the whole family at one time rather than kind of a grade level split. And we have always leaned towards that approach. And so I'm really excited to see those resources make it easier for families. And then 5, bring in Catholic curriculum to your homeschooling so that those other subject areas can be influenced by our faith and can represent our faith in a positive and just a good way. You know, as I said, I don't advocate choosing the Catholic curriculum just because it's Catholic, because it might not work for your kid in the style that it's done. But if it is a good option, then definitely consider that and go to my mega Catholic homeschooling curricula list at heartofamother.net/curriculum, or it's also on the menu at the top, and you can see all of those options. And there are options for catechesis and religious education in a section there as well. And I think that you'll find a lot of good resources there. So I hope that these relatively simple ideas, although also all-encompassing ideas that influence the environment of our homeschool and the day-to-day of our homeschool and our family life, are helpful to you and to your family so that you can pass on the beautiful faith that we have in the Catholic Church to our children through our homeschooling and through our daily lives. You can read more that I've done at heartofamother.net, or if you would like some specific one-on-one guidance on how to bring some of these faith elements into your homeschool or any other troubleshooting ideas, we have consultants available at bloomhomeschooling.com to help you with that, to have a one-on-one session where you chat with them about whatever is on your heart, regardless of your curriculum, with no further obligation. So check that out. And I also hope that you consider joining our Facebook group if you're not already a member at Heart of a Mother Moms. It is a fabulous resource because of thousands of moms giving their experiences and their wisdom about curriculum and homeschooling tips and troubleshooting and those kinds of topics. So thank you again for watching today, and we will see you next time.